How is everybody doing? Hopefully, you're having a great day, a great night, great morning, great whenever you're able to listen to this. I'm your boy Q. Welcome back to yet another Q's Corner. This is episode 3 and part 3 of the little mini series that I have of me analyzing the conferences. Now, here we're going to be talking about the lesser known one, but I feel like this is one that has way more talent than we personally are giving it credit for. If you haven't figured it out already, that conference is, quite simply, the AAC. It had some pretty good teams last year, has some interesting matchups this year, and I personally think this one can definitely just, bring some interesting points of view, some interesting situations to the forefront. Now, you know what? I think this conference has some really good players, some really talented guys, some dudes that could potentially be contending for awards at a later point in their career. And this conference has a really good amount of owners, active owners at that. And I think that if we give it one or two more seasons, the AAC could potentially grow into something very, very special. Now with that, I just want to hop right then and there into the first team, because there aren't many teams, so this is going to be more of a shorter one to discuss, if you understand what I mean. But yes, the first team we're going to be talking about is a team that, how do I put this? It seems weird to look at this team in the sense that they have a really young defense, entirely made out of freshmen and a redshirt freshman, and a young offense with two sophomore wide receivers, a freshman running back, and then the only upperclassman being that man, Carter Cox, at quarterback. So we're gonna hop right into it. If you haven't been able to figure out who it is already, I'm talking about the UCF, the Central Florida Knights. Their best player is easily Jonathan Henderson. But to start off, let's do a rundown of their roster so we can get an idea of how the situation is. Quarterback Carter Cox, as I mentioned earlier, is a 77 overall senior. Their running back, he's a low overall, but let's hope he gets active so he can definitely step it up. And that being Tyron Criswell, 75 overall freshman. There's two wide receivers on the roster, both sophomores. Jonathan Henderson, the best player on this team at an 87 overall, and Justin Blackman, 86 overall sophomore. They look to really give Cox a good target and really be the main focal points of this offense. Sliding over to defense, there's defensive lineman, 78 overall freshman Marcus Jordan. Right behind him in the linebacker core, Tyron Ice, redshirt freshman, 86 overall. Very solid indeed. Cam Akers, 78 overall freshman, and then 76 overall Josh Compton, also a freshman, both locking down the corner spots. So let's start talking about analysis on this team. Best players easily Jonathan Henderson. Justin Blackman's really good. He really has that talent. And Tyron Ice, he's the same overall as Justin Blackman, but he redshirted last year. He doesn't exactly have that same explosive factor, so to say, or shock factor that Blackman possesses, in the sense that we've already seen him play. However, Jonathan Henderson, we've seen play. He has been the better one of the two between him and Justin Blackman. He's really good. He really is a baller. And really, he should be the one getting most, if not all, not all because of how good Blackman is, but he should be getting a ton of touches on the offensive side of the football. He should be the best receiver and best friend of our X Factor, Carter Cox. He's the only senior on the team. He needs to show that leadership on this incredibly young Knights squad. I really feel like he can definitely do that on his own. He can definitely pull that off. But he's also the X factor because he isn't a high overall quarterback. UCF really need a quarterback. Not only is Cox a senior, he isn't exactly very good. And if they can bring in someone to play that quarterback spot for them next year with a lot of talent, whether it be via transfer or something like that, Henderson and Blackman will have an amazing QB to be receiving passes from, and I think that can be very crucial. Cox's performances and his ball placement this year will be crucial to see how far UCF offense goes, especially with the talent that they have in Jonathan Henderson and Justin Blackman. An example I really want to use for Carter Cox is Jordan Tuamu. I butchered his name, but he is the ex-quarterback of the Ole Miss Rebels in real life, and he had two amazing wide receivers in A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf. and he sucked. He didn't do well at all. Despite his wideouts putting up amazing numbers, being amazing in the NFL and everything, Jordan Ta'amu, whatever his name is, Ta'amu, I think that's his name, Jordan Ta'amu. Yeah, well, he ain't in the NFL, he's in the XFL in real life. So that really just shows how I see UCF's offense. Two really good wide receivers, but no quarterback. They're freshmen to watch. They have a ton of freshmen. Their entire defense is freshmen. But I say the defensive lineman, Marcus Jordan, because he didn't redshirt and he looks really good and active, he can be the freshman to watch. Either him or Cam Akers. I was really torn between the two, but I felt like Marcus Jordan will have a bigger and better impact for the UCF Knights than Cam Akers will, at least in this first season. Moving on from that, let's just hop into the very next team that we have, being the favorites to win the AAC. That is the Cincinnati Bearcats. Cincinnati Bearcats, they're deep. They're a good team. And saying that, it really is impressive to see how someone in this lower conference has been able to build such a squad. They have a lot of talent throughout. I picked their best player. You might be a little surprised by that based off of other names up here, but I really feel like this is how the Bearcats is set up. So let's go do a rundown of the roster. Xavier Rose, 84 overall sophomore. He's playing at quarterback. Very talented player. Right behind him in the backfield, Nomar Freimeyer. 79 overall freshman. He's running the ball. Four wideouts, my bad. Those being Hayden Ball, an 84 overall sophomore. Redshirt sophomore, 79 overall Dylan Quinn. 83 overall sophomore Taco Parker. Van Casey, 76 overall redshirt freshman. Two tight ends as well. So they have four wideouts, two tight ends. I'm expecting a lot of twin tight end sets potentially, which I'm honestly looking forward to because that's what they should be running when their best player is Taylor Wells, 90 overall sophomore, 76 overall redshirt sophomore Ty Worth. From there, we're hopping right into the defense, into one of the more dangerous defenses and underrated defenses in the nation. That being Javen Watson, 80 overall sophomore and defensive end. He's going with Boogie Castillo, 87 overall sophomore. He's been amazing. He was one of the sack leaders last year, and he hopes to replicate that type of season right now. Damon Wooden, 87 overall linebacker. Felipe Rios, he is a 78 overall redshirt freshman. He transferred from Florida last season. That's why he redshirted and all of that. He looks to be pretty solid. That is if he can get his activity up. In the corners, there's only two of them listed on the roster, that being Trey Baker, 87 overall sophomore, Justin Blackfield, and 78 overall sophomore as well. It's very solid. The secondary looks pretty good in that regard, while alongside them, going into the deeper aspects of the secondary, Devontae Brown, 76 overall sophomore. He's really talented. Okay, he really can do something, and he really has showed that talent, especially last year. He hopes to take an even bigger step up this season in his sophomore year. Chris Jackson, he also had a really good year last year, and I really think that both of them can really both be 90 overall for this coming season and be definitive safeties and one of the best safety duos in BAP. And then they have listed defensive back Louis Balls. What type of name, man? Louis Balls, 87 overall redshirt freshman. 82 overall redshirt freshman. Again, I was looking at Trey Baker. Louis Balls, 82 overall redshirt freshman. He looks very talented. He looks pretty good. And I feel like he can definitely cause a lot of issues for a lot of players. The best player is Taylor Wells. He's the best option last season. He really was the number one guy for Xavier Rose, and Cincinnati hopes to really carry him into next season. He was an all-conference first-team player. He was amazing. Seriously, watching Wells play last year was a work of art, and you will definitely want to see that more and more. Their X factor, I would say, is Xavier Rose. Their offense, as I said earlier, it seems pretty dynamic. Their defense looks absolutely insane. Cincinnati will only make it as far as where their quarterback, Xavier Rose, will take him. He's a really good QB, and I think he's getting a really good Week 1 test against LSU. LSU is one of the best defenses in the nation as well. They're really good on the defensive side. And so is Cincinnati. So really both teams are going to be flexing their defense, and we're going to see which offense is better set up for the future. I think that's going to be one that can definitely define the season for Cincinnati or LSU. The freshman to watch for Cincinnati, Nomar Freimeyer. I mean, he's a freshman running back on this team, and we're going to see what type of back Cincinnati use him as. He can definitely be one as a good rusher. He can definitely run the ball really well, I can imagine. But I'm thinking Coach Jair King, he's going to end up using him a lot more in the pass game, make this more of a fly team in the sense that he has twin tight ends. He can run sets out of that to trick people into thinking run when they're going pass. He has a ton of wide receivers that works as well. Or they can run the ball because they have more blocking based off of the twin tight end set, and Taylor Wells just being an exceptional player. I really think that a lot is going in favor, so to say, of Cincinnati. This season could definitely be something very special for them. And if they go undefeated like they did last year, well, you could be looking at a team that shocks everyone and makes the college football playoff, honestly. But we'll see how it ends up turning out, especially with this conference slowly but surely improving over time. The next team we're going to end up talking about, they have a pretty interesting situation that I want to address more than anything, that being the Memphis Tigers. Now, I think they benched the guy I have as their best player, that being Mo Lesta. He looks like a really talented player, really talented QB. I'm surprised that they brought in another QB in Deshaun Weatherly to play alongside him. I don't know if one of them is going to end up being a gadget guy, if they're going to use gadget plays. I think that would be really interesting. And in a conference like this, I think that would give them a nice advantage to run twin quarterback sets, have two quarterbacks. One of them, since I'm pretty sure, if I saw correctly, Deshaun Weatherly is very athletic. They can use that in a lot of sets. I think that could be useful. But their best player is Mo Lesta, and their X factor is Mo Lesta, in my opinion. He has just been really good. Let's go into the roster analysis real quick. Mo Lesta, 82 overall sophomore. He looks absolutely amazing. He's a really talented player, and I really feel that he is bringing another level to this team, so to say. I really think that he's talented enough to lead this Memphis team. The question is, how much does the coaching trust him, especially after bringing in 79 overall sophomore QB Deshaun Weatherly. I think that's going to be a beautiful quarterback duel, and I think we're really going to enjoy watching that. Besides, they only have one option, being freshman Derek Moa, 76 overall. It's nothing crazy, nothing really special. But Memphis, what they're known for is their defense. They have two freshman linebackers in Devin Witten, who's an 81 overall, and JoJo Justice, an 80 overall. I think they're both going to be absolutely amazing for this Memphis team to start off, and can definitely be the linebacker pairing for the future. Will Bonadonna, 78 overall junior. He's average, nothing crazy. Same with Garrett Slusher, 80 overall redshirt senior. It's nothing great, but he's still pretty good, considering the situation that Memphis is in and how they've really just exploded in recruiting recently, more than anything, as they bring in another freshman in Luke Robinson, 78 overall freshman, strong safety. I already talked about best player and X factor for them, so let's address freshman to watch, Devin Witten. Younger brother of Jimmy Witten. Devin Witten looks to be amazing, but on the other side of the ball. I really feel he can do that at Memphis. Memphis is a low exposure school in the sense that he will be allowed to develop and be the guy day one. It works really well for them. And Memphis, with the way the coach has been exploding towards the end of recruiting and stuff, if he can keep that up, build a solid defense, and maybe a bit more paths rush for Memphis and all of that, Devin Witten will definitely be one of the better linebackers in the nation, I would say, in 1 to 2 years, based off of the talent I truly think that he possesses profoundly in this team. Now moving on to another team in this conference. It's one that, personally, there's like 1-2 bright spots that I think are insane, but as a whole, nothing really kills me on this team. It's a very average team, so to speak. A team that really could surprise some people, but who knows how that can turn out. That team, of course, is the Navy Midshipmen. Forgive me about that one. Navy, their QB's Brian Bauman. He's a redshirt senior. He is their best player by far. And we're going to go right into the roster thing talking about him. Brian Bauman, 91 overall. He really hopes to be the face of this Navy team and potentially be a really high draft pick for the coming draft as a Navy player, which really is relatively unheard of, so to say. Can he be the first in a while? I really think he can. He's a very talented player, very talented quarterback, and he definitely showed it last year in the bowl game where he went absolutely off. Right behind him, Jacoby Harris at running back. Nothing too special. 76 overall sophomore. Same with his wide receiver option. That's really what I think what might hold Bauman back despite being so talented. Only having two sophomore wide receivers that are 80 and 76 overall respectively in Jackson Moore and Spencer Bohannon. I don't know, man. That doesn't really convince me, if at all. On defense, they have Clay Erickson, who looks really good. He's the only other really bright spot on this Navy team. 87 overall sophomore Erickson had an amazing year last year. I really feel he can replicate that this coming season more than anything. Xavier Alantunji, 76 overall freshman linebacker. I think that's a really solid addition for them more than anything. Along with other freshman addition Daniel Sanders, 76 overall freshman. JT Thomas, very solid corner as well, sophomore, 76 overall. He can definitely grow a bit more, and I think he'll be very, very special on this Navy team. Now, I already mentioned earlier Brian Bauman being their best player. I think the only thing that could hold him back is the weapons around him, but the fact that he's, I would say, a dual threat quarterback, he can throw it really well. I've seen it, he can run it as well. I think Bauman could definitely carry Navy some wins this season. Their X factor, though, is the defensive leader, the heart and soul of that really young defense that I think Navy should definitely expand on, and that's Clay Erickson. Very talented linebacker. He would hit dudes hard last season. He's definitely gotten the attention of not only several teams who might look at him as a potential transfer to their team if truly Navy cannot get anything done, but at the same fact, I think some NFL teams might already be taking a look at Clay Erickson. He looks that talented. I think he can be a very good linebacker in the NFL. Daniel Sanders is my freshman to watch. Now, I didn't know who to pick for freshmen to watch. There's only 2 freshmen to pick from. But I felt like Sanders, based off of how much weaker the corner core is compared to the linebacker core, he'll shine more as a potential number 1 guy, if one being compared to JT Thomas and Xavier Alantunji when he gets compared to Clay Erickson. I don't know, that's just something that I feel. It's something that I've seen, and it's something that I personally feel is pretty interesting, so to say more than anything. Moving on to our penultimate team. Now, it's interesting. This team, they don't look good at all. They might be the worst team in the conference because they have the same issue that Memphis has. The only difference is they don't have a team, and both of the QB options suck. This is SMU. SMU, man. The freshmen to watch and their X factor or quarterback Hunter Hathaway. Their roster is very simple. Sophomore QB Steve Goat, 77 overall. Hunter Hathaway, 76 overall freshman. And defensive end Nolan Wilson, 75 overall freshman. Now, Hunter Hathaway, I think, is going to end up winning. Despite Steve Goat being the one listed as their star QB or best player or whatever, that's by 1 overall point. He played very decent last season. And we don't know anything about Hunter Hathaway, but he's their X factor more than anything. I feel like Hathaway can step in, take that role from Steve Goat, put up better stats than Steve Goat, and then potentially the SMU coach will say, you know what, this Hathaway kid has some talent. He can definitely lead us and he can definitely guide us. And I think that's where Hunter Hathaway will be the X factor because he's been really talented. He's played really well, and he's showed composure, skill as only a freshman in the practice sessions that I've been able to see. And Hathaway, well, solid player. He's also the freshman to watch that I have. It's either him or Nolan Wilson, and I don't know if I have that much faith in Nolan Wilson. We'll see how that progresses throughout this season. Well, now we're done with SMU, we can talk about the final team in the AAC. I think it's interesting in the sense that I think this is the only team that could potentially compete and challenge that can potentially challenge that Cincinnati team. It was a team that challenged them last year, and it's a team that I feel like this season can definitely do even better and more amazing. That being South Florida. USF, the Bulls. Now, you might say I'm biased for saying the guy I own, Julian Quintero, is the best player on this team, but if you look at the stats last year, he had almost 1,200 rushing yards with 11 touchdowns. He did amazing on the ground last year for USF. And I think this year, with such a revamped offense, USF will do better. They have freshman QB Lamar Obiagu, 80 overall freshman. Julian Quintero, 86 overall sophomore running back. He's talented. He's a very talented running back. So that's definitely something that USF is hoping to build off of. And then they have, of course, the 3 wideouts that they're bringing in that I think have a lot of promise. That being Tokyo Jackson, an 82 overall, Corey Gaines, an 80 overall, and Leo Jackson, a 77 overall. All 3 freshmen, and that looks absolutely amazing. The X factor, though, comes in on the defensive side because the defensive side looks a little bit more wobbly, in my opinion, compared to this USF offense. They are going to be anchored, though, by the X factor, who is hoping to step up and be a leader on this team in Jordan Love. Jordan Love, 86 overall sophomore. Very talented. Him and Julian Quintero are definitely the captains to this team and definitely will be the key points to watch on this team. Tayshawn Cam, 77 overall freshman, and senior Darius Garland Jr. at a 78 overall. In the secondary, we have Matisse Thibault, 76 overall freshman, and Rakeem Rock, an 82 overall junior. So now, as I mentioned earlier, Julian Quintero, after an amazing season last year, I think he can definitely live up to the last season this year. And he might end up being one of the best running backs in the nation, especially if USF can get way more recognition this year and Quintero can pile on a little bit more yards if the offense isn't as one-dimensional as it was last year. The X Factor, Jordan Love, I mentioned it earlier, the defense looks worse than what this offense can offer, and if Love can definitely anchor it and lead it and guide it, well, USF should be on its road to greatness without problem on defense, but the defense really needs development, especially from the 2 young freshmen that they're bringing in on the defensive side. On the offensive side, 4 freshmen coming in, one of them being Lamar Obiagu. Despite Tokyo Jackson being one of the best wide receivers in the class, he's really good. Corey Gaines being very good, and Leo Jackson, I think, being very underrated. Lamar Obiagu, I think, really got underrated. I think he should be around an 82 overall. He was very talented in high school. Playoffs kind of messed with him a little, but Obiagu, if he can be active and he can show this and not only show faith in his wide receiver options, it's Tokyo Jackson, Corey Gaines, and Leo Jackson are really good. TCL. Oh, wait, you know what? No, perfect name. The wide receiver core for USF, TLC. Tender Loving Care Tokyo Leo Corey. TLC. Simple. Done. But if Lamar Obiagu, if he can trust Julian Quintero in the passing game, using swing passes and handing him the ball off as well for running plays, and he can also throw it up to Tokyo Jackson, who's a huge wide receiver, make good throws, very smart throws to Gaines and Jackson. If he is able to develop that trust and that feeling amongst him and his receivers for first season, I really think that this team can be going somewhere. Well, that's the end of the AAC analysis. This is probably going to be the shortest video because it's the smallest conference. But there's some really good teams in the AAC. I think that they're going to end up being slept on as a whole, as there's many teams that weren't even mentioned in the AAC. They will end up being the smallest conference and everything. But keep an eye out for the better teams in this conference. Cincinnati, Central Florida, and South Florida. All 3 of those teams I really feel will end the season ranked. They'll be very good. And they will surprise some teams, potentially have a couple upsets on the way, with me even saying that Cincinnati could potentially, make a national championship game. Thank you guys so much for hopping on. It's been your boy Q. As always, you guys know I love you. You guys know I care a lot. This is the 3rd episode. Tomorrow, we're going to see if we can get the Pac-12 to drop. Yeah, if we can get the Pac-12 to drop, that would be great. Maybe not Pac-12, maybe just Big 10. Or maybe even the Big 12. We'll see how that all ends up unraveling for tomorrow. If you like this video, share it with your friends. Share it to absolutely everyone you can in BAP. I really wanted you guys to watch this and enjoy it and take it in. Please share it with people. I really care about this content. I really want it to grow. By the way, we're officially now partnered with Handyman Watch, which means that we'll have more guests in the future. For now, it's just me, and it'll primarily be just me. We'll bring in potentially a co-host or something like that in weeks to come in future episodes. So we'll see how that ends up turning out. As always, it's been your boy Q. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. See y'all next time. Peace.